God, Bashar, and our brave army was the chant at the Damascus Opera House last night, where Syrian President Bashar al-Assad addressed the nation. It's the first time in nearly 6 months Assad has spoken publicly, and some hoped he might offer concessions to the rebels as the death toll there climbs above 60,000 and the opposition gains ground. Instead, he told supporters, "We are now in a state of war in every sense of the word." Despite vague talk of a reconciliation conference, Assad continued to condemn his opponents as terrorists and criminals. We're joined now by Aaron David Miller, who has advised both Democratic and Republican Secretaries of State on the Middle East and joins us now from the Woodrow Wilson Center. Good to have you, Aaron. What did you make of Assad's speech, and what does it say about the trajectory of the conflict?
I mean, I think the speech is significant because it reflects both a man who's clearly fatigued and quite worried, but also quite determined. And I think that's frankly not a bad description of where we are right now in this conflict. It's really about addition and subtraction in the long run. The rebels, the opposition, however inchoate or divided, will ultimately gain strength. More allies, better sophisticated weapons, better techniques in confronting the regime. That's the addition issue. The regime confronts and will suffer an attrition, a subtraction problem. Morale, exhaustion, the absence of servicing of weapons, and attrition from the ranks. All of these things will weaken it over time. The problem is that the two arcs or two curves haven't reached a tipping point and may not for quite some time, because the rebels, the opposition, are still fundamentally divided and not capable of maintaining and acquiring territory. And the regime has at its disposal a tremendous amount of assets.
You wrote in an op-ed in the Washington Post about a week ago that the U.S. shouldn't be blamed for how bad things have gone, and that to a significant extent there's not much that we can do as outsiders. So I wonder what, if anything, you think can be done at this juncture?
I just don't believe, unless the President of the United States is going to come to the conclusion that the overthrow of the Assads is in the vital national interest of the United States, and in order to achieve that objective, create a political, economic, and military strategy designed to do that. And we probably could do that, by the way. But that would impart and imply a degree of ownership for the future of the country that would burden the United States with a set of responsibilities that we've seen all too painfully played out in what are now the two longest wars in American history, certainly now Afghanistan, Iraq being the other.
So last thing quickly then, if things are bad, unlikely to get better, and there's not much we can do unless we want to make a commitment that we're almost certain we don't want to make, what do you root for? Or do you just kind of lament the fact that things are awful and a lot of people are likely to die in the meantime?
Well, I don't relish the positions I've taken. I mean, I was charged for almost 25 years with fixing the world's problems. Now I'm just charged with talking about them. But I think that the best outcome would be a negotiated transition, not legitimizing Assad in power for a year towards some sort of nebulous transition.
Didn't we learn today, though, that a negotiated transition isn't going to happen as long as Assad's there?
Yeah, right. You asked me for what I would believe would be the best case scenario. That is the best case. Otherwise, you have to hope that the addition and subtraction arcs are accelerating, and that we should do everything we possibly can, and others, to accelerate the addition problem for the addition advantage for the opposition and the subtraction liability for the regime.
Okay. Aaron, thanks a lot.
Pleasure.